Hello everyone, welcome back to another video of my F1 23 MYTEAM career mode, episode 8, heading into the Spanish Grand Prix. If you didn't miss the last episode of the Monaco Grand Prix, make sure to go ahead and check that out. It was a pretty fun race, had the best result of the series so far. Spoiler alert, coming home in a P4, hunting down a podium, but falling just a little bit short too late into the race. But we're going to be switching gears from Monaco to the Spanish Grand Prix this weekend as we hop over to the activities list. Pretty short time between Monaco and the Spanish Grand Prix, and we are actually going to focus on some second driver development with weight training. So hopefully we can get Felipe Dragovich up near the points or getting some better results, up his focus as well as up his pace. We're going to be jumping over to some R&D points. We have a fair amount of R&D points to spend, 2,200, and we are actually looking for some major R&D upgrades to be put on the car. We have two of the chassis developments coming up very shortly, but they will not be in time for the race weekend. Actually, no, sorry, one will be in if it does not fail for the race weekend, but the other one will be coming after into the Canadian Grand Prix, if I can speak. So we are looking for a major aerodynamic upgrade on the Halo for rear downforce at a discount, and hopefully that can come in within the 24 days and actually get and not have it fail. Be upgrading two parts of the powertrain facility for build time and quality control. Hopefully able to get spec 1 and upgrade some power units. That way we can keep the most powerful power unit on the grid. But as we head into the race weekend, we have a development for the marketing team. One of the world's leading interior designers has offered to give our hospitality suite a makeover. We could do the job at half the cost, but that wouldn't get us on the front page of their globally distributed lifestyle magazine. What should we do? Should we accept it? Should we suggest or just decline? And we are actually gonna go full on in and accept it. We do have a little bit of money to play around with, and that is going to give our team acclaim a boost of 1,000. So yeah, I mean it's $50,000, but like I said, we have some money to spare since our contract for Felipe is not coming up for a little bit of a while. But as we get ready to jump into the race and practice sessions, as you saw, we have both upgrades from the chassis and durability come in, and the chassis was a major upgrade. Do not forget about that. And we are actually going to be looking at another few upgrades since we do still have about 1,100 resource points to play around with. I was thinking about doing some durability on the turbo, and decided to go ahead and do it since it was 80% off. I mean, that's an easy 120 resource points just paid off since we do have the worst durability on the grid. But we are actually going to be looking for another possible upgrade of of a major weight redistribution on the chassis side with a discount of 25%. So that is going to take us all the way down into 21 resource points. So hopefully that will be able to be on the car in the near future. Jumping forward, it looks like there's going to be a little bit of a chance of rain during the race, so maybe that will spice things up as we look at the R&D chart. And it looks like a few teams have brought some major upgrades as well as we have. It looks like Aston Martin has brought some major upgrades to close that gap to the top 4, as well as Williams. And for the last few races, Red Bull have not brought any upgrades, so wonder if they're going to be bringing major upgrades later on during the season. But looks like the top 4 teams now, 5 teams actually, with Aston Martin getting in there. So hopefully bringing upgrades and promote us up to even further in the middle field of the pack. A little chance of rain, but let's go ahead and hop into qualifying. We're going to jump right into our first flying lap of Q1. Car felt pretty good during practice, so hopefully we can keep the momentum up as we come through the end of the first sector, make a big snap of oversteer and actually take out a marker board. So that is going to ruin our first flying lap, and we're actually going to back off and go for another run on the same exact set of tires. I will say my weakest point on this track with this car was the final corner. Could not carry the speed as much as the AI were. But on our second flying lap, we come flying into turn 1, and it actually looks like there's going to be a little traffic to deal with, and Albon just ends up parking it on the racing line, and that's going to ruin our lap as well as Pierre Gasly's lap. So again, backing off and going for a third consecutive run on this set of tires. And actually coming through the second end of the second sector, and we are going purple, so hopefully we are able to finish out this lap and hopefully look for a decent time to get us through to Q2. And as you can see, our battery is on a little bit of wear, and that's actually going to be a little bit of a hindrance for the rest of qualifying. But as we come across the line, we are going to be coming home in P5 for the first part of qualifying. As we scroll down to the bottom of 5, not a whole big names knocked out except for Lance Stroll yet again in that Aston Martin. But our teammate Felipe is still in the bottom 5, and I was really hoping I was able to get him into the Q2 session. But on that note, let's head right into qualifying 2. Doing a little bit something different for Q2, we're going to be going on one flying lap in Q2 to see if we can save a fresher pair of tires for Q3. And on our first and only flying lap, we're going green, but hopefully we can keep the car on the track, and hopefully we're able to make it into Q3. Definitely taking a gamble because I wasn't really sure if I was able to make it. But as we come across the line, coming home in P6, and actually we are going to go for a second run on the same exact tires. So hopefully we can keep the car in one piece, as we're about a tenth down on our time, get a snap of oversteer, and that is going to ruin that lap. So we do have enough time. JK, no we don't. I thought we had enough time for one more flying lap, but we decided to bring the car in. We actually squeaked through into Q3 for, I believe it was the third or fourth time in a row for us. Some big names knocked out is Fernando Alonso, and then that's pretty much the only big news knocked out, especially with their upgrades. So on that note, guys, let's hopefully look for a good starting position in Q3. As we hop into our first official flying lap of Q3, going purple in the middle sector, had a little bit of a mare in the first sector, but hopefully we can keep the car cleaned up on the track. As you can see, our battery is not doing so well, almost losing the rear end right there, but hopefully we are able to set a pretty decent time for our first flying lap in Q3, trying to get a better exit, but not really sure, not really figuring out the car through that corner, and coming across the line in P5. As we come through to our final flying lap, we are going purple yet again in the first sector, definitely using that Red Bull powertrain in the back of the car to our advantage on that final, or in that middle straight, I should say, taking it out of the 100-meter board, using all of the track limits, and we are about 5, almost 6/10 up on our previous lap. And as we come across the line, we are going to be improving and actually set the provisional pole, and actually hopefully that can stick. But as we come to an end of Q3, we are actually going to be coming home in P3. George Russell pulls out an amazing lap time, over 4/10 off of Lando Norris and myself. But that was an amazing qualifying session on my part. Was not really looking or expecting a pole position, but we did come home in P3. So hopefully we can use the starting position to possibly look for a podium, but not really wanting to get ahead of myself and bite off more than I can chew. And actually, for a second race weekend in a row, we have out-qualified both Red Bulls. And yeah, I mean, hopefully we can take this good starting position and possibly look for a podium. But for the very least, I definitely am looking for points this race weekend. But with that being said, let's go ahead and head into the Spanish Grand Prix.
Welcome along, everyone, to sunny Spain, specifically to the Circuit de Barcelona, Catalunya. So many great moments in Formula One history have been written at this very track over the years, including Michael Schumacher's first win for Ferrari back in '96. That win was in the rain. We might have better weather here today, but we're just as overjoyed to be at the Spanish Grand Prix. It's an updated track at Catalunya, and the popular opinion in the paddock is that we never wanted the chicane in the first place. That's now been gone, the final corner is much faster, and at 2.9 miles and 14 turns, we await the Spanish Grand Prix. Let's run you through the driver grid order for today's exciting race. George Russell will begin today's event in pole position, and Lando Norris lines up alongside. Moving on to the rest of the grid, we have the owner driver, Verstappen, Sainz, Hamilton, Oscar Piastri, Perez, Hülkenberg, Fernando Alonso, Ocon, Bottas, Magnussen, Tsunoda, Stroll, the owner driver, Leclerc, Joe, Drugovich, Sargent, De Vries, and Pierre Gasly picks up the final grid slot. It's almost time for the lights to go out, so let's head down to the track where preparations are underway.
After the points finished last race, let's aim to keep that momentum going.
And that is what I'm going to do, Mark. I'm looking for some solid points this race weekend. Going to do a one stop here at Spain. And yeah, I mean, the original strategy was a medium to hard, but I decided to switch it to a hard to medium. I would much rather be on these softer tires near the end of the race, and hopefully using the grippier tires with less fuel and put it to our advantage. Not really looking for a race win here or maybe even a podium, but like I said before, just looking for some solid points, and hopefully we can get those solid points. As we come up to our grid box, going to try and light up these hard tires as much as we can and get into a decent starting position for the race. And we actually do that with 0.5 meters from the very front of the grid box. So on that note, guys, let's head into 5 red lights here at the Spanish Grand Prix race weekend, and we are 5 red lights, and out they go, and get a pretty decent start, getting a decent start from Russell as well as Norris, but deciding to tuck in behind Russell, not really wanting to look for a big move into turn 1 or on lap 1, just trying to make it nice and clean and lose as little time as possible, because I know there's a lot faster cars behind me as during race spec, I should say. Probably not qualifying, but race spec. I am definitely out of my element here, and just going to try and hope to hold on to this third position through the first lap. As you can see, Russell is leading us through this middle sector as we have a big snap of oversteer and get all over the curb, which is going to invite Max Verstappen up on the inside. Not going to fight it too much since we are on the harder tires, and plus he is in the fastest car on the grid. But possibly looking for an overtake into this now reprofiled corner using the Red Bull powertrain, but deciding to hold off and just possibly pressure him into a mistake. But with the 2-time world champion behind the wheel, it is very unlikely for him to make a mistake on this track at this moment in time. But as we come through this last final sector, you will see, like I said before, my weakest part of the track was that final quarter. I could not figure that out, as Lewis Hamilton is practically pushing us through that corner. Looking a little defensive, not wanting to use too much of our battery since we are a little short for wear on the battery. As you can see, we are losing a lot of performance out of it because it is quite worn. So we are also managing that through this race as Hamilton looks up on the inside ever so slightly, decides to back out of it and hold position into turn 4. So far, sit rep, net gain 0 minus 1 if you want to say, but looking pretty decent so far in this early stages of the race. Another snap of oversteer, get on the power just a little too much, but it looks like Hamilton and Perez were fighting behind, so no harm, no foul, but definitely want to clean it up to try to keep with the top 3, maybe even look for, like I said, just trying to keep with the top 3, just trying to minimize the time loss as much as possible, especially on this first stint on the hard tires with a lot more fuel. And hopefully with the strategy, the time will come back to us later on in the race. As you know me, I like to be on these softer tires at the end of the race with a lot less fuel and so on and so forth. But coming out of the final sector on lap 2 onto lap 3, you will see Lewis Hamilton gain a fair amount of time through that last final corner, especially now with DRS, as it looks like Hamilton and Perez are going to be going at it, as I am actually a little too focused on them and not focused on where I am going and almost run off the track. But we are able to not really lose too much time, as it also looks like Norris and Verstappen were going toe-to-toe. As we jump to lap 5, go a little defensive on Perez as he has some DRS on us, but we were able to keep him at bay. And this is where my race kind of gets underway, where I'm just defending from the cars behind because they are much faster during race pace, and I'm just trying to minimize the damage pretty much. I don't want to lose too much time or too much gap to the guys in front of us. But as you can see, Verstappen does overtake Norris, Perez does overtake Hamilton. Big snap of oversteer right there, get on the curbs a little too much. But so far the Red Bulls have been making up positions in this race, and hopefully we're able to keep up with them, but again, not really looking to, make any spectacular moves or be the hero, just trying to stay within the points and keep up with the cars in front of us, as well as keeping the cars behind us and defend like no other. Kind of like Fernando Alonso said to Esteban Ocon, defend like a lion, and that is what I did mainly this race. I was defending my hardest, and again, just not taking the best of exits and lines through that final corner. But luckily, Perez was a little too far back. I mean, as you can see, they are gaining with DRS, but we actually almost 3 wide behind as Sainz is trying to make a move on Perez and Hamilton, and within one straight, Sainz is up into almost P5. The hometown hero is definitely using the energy from the crowd to make some moves on this main straight. As you can see, Perez is well within our slipstream. Gonna weave out of or break the toe and try to have him go a little defensive, using as much battery as we dare, and he looks on a move on the outside, and we are able to keep on his inside, and we are actually able to hold off Perez and keep that position in the books, and like I said, defend for our life. And you can see he's definitely a lot faster as we are losing touch to the top 3 in a faster car, but we are able to position our car just ever so slightly perfectly, and if that makes any sense, which it doesn't, but able to defend from Sergio Perez as well as Carlos Sainz, the hometown hero, and we are able to keep a P4, but we make a crucial mistake right there, and that invites Perez to go up our inside. But hopefully we are able to use our powertrain behind us to close the gap, and as we come into the heavy braking zone, we are slightly ahead, but he has the most preferred line, and we are actually going to have to tuck in behind him and kind of just concede the position. At this point, we know he's faster than us. We know we're on the less grippier tire, so we are just now looking to defend from Carlos Sainz as we make a complete joke out of the final corner. But with DRS, using all the battery and slipstream, we are going to be gaining on the Red Bull like it's practically standing still before we even hit the braking zone, as Perez looks up on the inside, makes a little move, but we are able to hold him off. But like I said, even before we hit the braking zone, we are ahead of the Red Bull. So that is definitely where our car is shining the most as of right now, is on those straights, using that powertrain as well as some battery, and just gaining time back over the cars behind. But as you can see, jumping forward a little bit into lap 9, almost the end of lap 9, beginning of lap 10. Gonna try and look for a little bit of a defensive move on Sergio Perez. As you can see, he's well within our slipstream and he goes flying past us. We're gonna try and tuck in behind him and use his slipstream to our benefit and look for a move on the outside, trying to keep the momentum up, and we're actually able to do so and kind of push him a little bit wide, but we're going side by side through turn 3 and almost making contact right there, and using all the battery we have left and practically pushing him through this corner. But we are going to have to concede the position as we are under attack from Lewis Hamilton as well. But that is Sergio Perez pretty much gone from our defense, and we are going to have to pretty much just not really look to overtake him, but just try to keep up with him and keep up and be within his slipstream as well as DRS to defend from Hamilton behind. But in that Red Bull, he is pretty much not really a lost cause, but he's pretty much gone. He finally was able to get past us, so now we are just looking to defend to Lewis Hamilton. And as you can see, Hamilton and Sainz have been swapping positions back and forth these last few laps or two, as well as Oscar Piastri and Fernando Alonso getting in the mix of it. So I'm kind of a cork in the bottle, but using all the battery and DRS on this main straight as Lewis Hamilton looks for a move on our inside. We are gaining time on Paris, so we're going to be looking for a move, but we decide to hold off a little too far back to make a dive bomb. That would have been very, very drastic, I should say. But Lewis Hamilton is looking on our inside, but he decides again to stick in behind us and, hold off for a position, which we are trying to hold on to for dear life. If I could just catch my breath. Whew. A lot of action going on here at the Spanish Grand Prix. Jumping forward to the end of lap 11 onto lap 12. As you can see, Sergio Perez is just gone. He's broken DRS range, and now we are having to defend from the 7-time world champion, as well as Carlos Sainz, and maybe even Piastri. As Hamilton makes a move on our outside, we're going to go late on the brakes and try to keep on his inside and actually push him just a little bit wide, but giving him just enough room, and he's going to back out of it and actually lose a position to the home hero, Carlos Sainz, on the very next lap. Now is Carlos Sainz's turn to try to make a move on me and try to get past me, but again, going to try and break the toe just ever so slightly and use the battery at the very last second to defend from Carlos Sainz. And before we even get into the braking zone, Carlos Sainz is going to look for a move on the outside, but we are able to keep the momentum on the inside and actually hold him off, which is going to put him under pressure from Lewis Hamilton from behind. Jumping forward to lap 13 at the end of lap 13 on the beginning of lap 14, Carlos Sainz is right on our rear end through that last corner, as well as Lewis Hamilton. So we're going to play a little bit of a dummy and try to get him back within his slipstream and carry his speed on the outside, kind of like we did with Sergio Perez. But unfortunately, Sainz is able to make it stick into turn 1 and 2. As you look at the leaderboard, it looks like Hamilton and Piastri are trading places, as well as Fernando Alonso. So as of right now, we're going to try and stick with Sergio Perez, and we are actually able to do so. We were able to stick within DRS range of him, and that's going to bring us to lap 16, and this is where our tires really start to struggle. We were about a lap or two away from our pit window, and we're definitely going to be struggling on the rear tires, not really saving them like I was really wanting to through the first stint. But we are well within the slipstream and DRS range of Carlos Sainz. So on this lap, we are coming in and we're going to be looking for a move using all the battery there. And we are going to swoop off into the inside of Carlos Sainz, kind of bringing a little hush over the crowd since we did overtake one of the hometown heroes. But on this lap, like I said, we are coming in. So hopefully we're able to hold off on this position, which we are able to do so as we come into the pits. On lap 17, make sure we don't get a penalty, and we were just barely able to make it under the speed limit. So we were coming in for our medium tires, and this is where I was kind of having a little bit of an issue because we barely come out in front of Carlos Sainz, and I was expecting my hards to go a lot farther in the race than other teams' mediums. So that is definitely where I'm lacking in this race, is tire wear. As you can see, Hamilton actually overcuts us and takes the position from us. So now we just have to look to overtake Lewis Hamilton. And actually, through the pit stops, he overtook not only me, but Carlos Sainz and Oscar Piastri. So Hamilton has gained a bunch of time with the undercut. My apologies, I said overcut. But with the undercut, he has gained a bunch of time, so hopefully we can track him down as we come in through this middle sector, getting all over the curbs and making a massive mistake, almost losing the rear end, which is going to invite Carlos Sainz on our outside. A little contact right there, but looks like no damage was done to my car as well as Carlos Sainz's car. But a big mistake on our part, and we cannot be having that if we want to try to track down Lewis Hamilton and possibly look for a P6. But it is going to be very difficult with being under pressure from Carlos Sainz and Piastri. As we jump forward to the end of lap 20 onto lap 21, Lewis Hamilton has pretty much gapped us, and we are now looking at a defensive effort from one of the hometown heroes, Carlos Sainz, and this is going to be going on for laps and laps. As he looks on the outside, we are going to almost push him off, kind of go a little bit deep on our braking zone, but he decides to back out, which is going to put him under pressure from Piastri, but he's able to hold onto that position, and on to the very next lap. It's going to be Carlos Sainz part 2, maybe even Piastri if he gets involved. Using battery, going to break the toe as he does have DRS, and it looks like he's going to be well within our slipstream, maybe looking for a move on the outside. Makes a dive bomb on the outside, but we are able to hold on to the inside with the medium tires. So that is us to Carlos Sainz 0. Hopefully we can keep this battle up and hold on to P7 for the remaining of the race. And actually, I didn't even realize this, but Fernando Alonso jumped us as well in the pit stops. So hats off to him and Aston Martin. Was not expecting to see him above us. But as we come on to lap 24, there's a yellow flag behind us, and it's actually Oscar Piastri is going to DNF out of this race with a engine failure. So that is not what McLaren is wanting, especially on Oscar Piastri's side. But that kind of saves us from an overtake from Carlos Sainz. But on the very next lap, you can see Oscar Piastri is still there. I'm not sure why that wasn't a safety car. But as we come into the green flag racing zone, Sainz kind of catches me napping. He slips up on the inside, but we're able to carry the speed and use the grip on the outside, and we're able to hold off on to P7. Looks like a little bit of a move. Carlos Sainz was looking on the inside, but he decides to tuck in behind us. So a little bit of a set rep. We are down from where we first started, but we are stuck in a fight with Carlos Sainz. We are fighting, defending for our lives to hold on to this P7, and this is where it's going to be a big shot to us, as Carlos Sainz is practically pushing us through the final corner. Going to try and do a little bit of a switchback on the inside, a little late on the brakes, but he gives us room, and we actually kind of bully him off the racing line, and he gave us space. I mean, hats off to Carlos Sainz, but we are able to hold off on lap 26 as we are in P7. And actually, looking a little bit at the racing order, it looks like both Ferraris have not had the best of race weekends. As we come on to lap 27, here we go again with Carlos Sainz. Who knew I was going to be fighting that Ferrari today, but here we are, as he looks for a move on the outside yet again, and we're going to try and hold him off, carry the speed, and with the medium tires, we're able to, like I said, hold him off yet again through that same part of the track. We're going to be looking, asking about some weather reports, since there was a little chance of rain, but nothing was going to come, so it's going to be a straight out dogfight for me and Sainz until the very end of this race, which we only have a handful of laps remaining. Again, not getting the best exit. As you can see, Carlos Sainz gets a much better exit, and as we come on to the main straight, he's going to be in front of us looking for a move on the outside, pulling into the braking zone, going to try and carry the speed around the outside, and we are able to defend from him yet again, and the very exact same spots for the, I think it was like the 5th or 6th time, but we were able to hold him off. And honestly, we weren't losing too much time to Leclerc behind, which I was kind of worried about. I didn't want both Ferraris getting involved, but it was just me and Sainz fighting for P7 to the very end. As you can see, we have three and a half, 4 laps left in this race, as we have a big moment which is going to compromise our exit onto the main straight, and Carlos Sainz is practically pushing us through that corner, and he has a big shot of DRS as well as slipstream. We're going to tuck back into his slipstream and make a move on the inside, a little bit late on the brakes, but we were just a little too far from that move. So as of right now, Sainz has finally got the position done. It has taken him, I believe it's like 7 or 8 laps to make that move done. But as we come onto the final lap, we are able to get back in within his slipstream, and we are gaining, looking for a possible move into turn 1, but deciding to hold back and possibly look for a move later on in this lap. But unfortunately, that will not come. So we're going to be coming across the line in P8. I will gladly take P8 from the mega defensive effort that we did this race weekend, but definitely got the most out of the car and very proud of this P8.
Another Spanish Grand Prix is over, and what a special race it was. Natalie Pinkham, how do you think they were able to set themselves apart today?
Well, they are very much at one with the car, which is a cliche, but it's true. It's not an easy process, and that work is very much paying off.
Our winning drivers are on their way to the podium right now. It's been a fantastic race for McLaren, that's for sure. And no doubt, they'll be...
As we exit the podium sequence, Lando Norris has 3 wins on the trot. Was not expecting that. Ever since he broke that streak, or that curse of not winning his first race, he has been unstoppable. And yeah, I mean, like I said, us coming home in P8 was not the worst case scenario. We did score points, kind of got outperformed by Fernando Alonso and Lewis Hamilton with the strategy, but I would say that's probably the best that we could have gotten for this race weekend. Max Verstappen is still 41 points ahead of Lando Norris and Lewis Hamilton, but they are still within striking distance if Max Verstappen does have a poor race. As you can see, we are tied on points with Nick de Vries as we are in P13, and the Drivers' Championship, as well as Felipe Drugovich is tied with Nico Hülkenberg. Jumping over to the Constructors' Championship, Red Bull are able to extend their lead ever so slightly to the Ferraris with their bad performance this race weekend, and we are able to close the gap to Williams as well as Haas. So definitely looking for some more points throughout the season. Really hoping that Felipe is able to look closer to the points, and hopefully we're able to keep this momentum up on our side of the field. With these upgrades coming as well, we have some major upgrades coming. But on that note, guys, I hope you did enjoy, and I will see you all in the very next episode.